Last November, I bought a bare bones 1000mm X-Carve, thinking I was going to turn it into a large format 3D printer. About the time I started to assemble the frame, though, I started thinking about some woodworking projects that I had either wanted to do or hadn't finished because of the difficulties of using manual power tools. So I decided to make it into a carver after all. I also wanted a dust collection system. Every dust shoe I came across mounted separately on the gantry. These systems don't follow the contours of your workpiece. You have to manually adjust the height, and that was going to be a potential problem. Most systems I looked at probably would have been too heavy to mount them onto the Z-axis anyway. So it seemed to me that having a combination design, you could make the system more compact, light, inexpensive, and easier to use. The router and a dust collection system from Inventables was going to cost over $200. Since I had not bought a router yet, I figured I was free to select one that would suit my needs. After researching the choices available, I decided on the Makita RT0701C Trim Router because of its low noise, its wide range of speeds, and low price. Even lower in price is the MLCS 9056 Rocky Trim Router, which has the same 65mm diameter and other similar geometry. So I decided to do my own design. I started by making prototype clamps made out of aluminum. I made an opaque dust shoe with a 3D printer I bought in January. After all was said and done, it works pretty well, but of course with most prototypes, there are a couple of changes I would like to have made before the cutting began. So how could I justify making another one when the prototype already does what I need it to do? Then I thought, certainly there are other X-Carve owners out there that would like to be using an improved system of this type. I decided that aluminum is overkill for mounting a router, and it would be nice to have a dust shoe that is transparent. So I made plans to make a small batch of production units for sale. The braces are made of Delrin, and the dust shoe is made of plexiglass. After the weeks it took to work out a manufacturing plan and waiting for the supplies I needed to do the job, and many hours of work, I now have a batch of 8 ready for sale. I call the system the DustDragon. For $85, shipping not included, you get 2 clamps with 4 machine screws and their nylon retainer nuts, a mounting plate, and a dust shoe. The upper clamp is smaller and it holds the upper portion of the router. The lower clamp holds the lower portion of the router and also serves to join a 1 1/4 inch vac hose to the dust shoe, which acts as a standard attachment to the hose. Begin by mounting the plate using hardware that comes with the X-Carve core components. The plate has 2 columns of 3 holes that are used for mounting 4 V-wheels. The holes on one side are larger than the ones on the opposite side. These are for mounting the eccentric nuts. Only 2 of the holes on each side will be needed. The others are there to provide you with more mounting choices. The 2 holes near the center are for mounting the Delrin nut, which is driven by the Z-axis lead screw. The 4 outer holes are for mounting the braces to the plate. After you have mounted the plate onto the Z-axis, loosely mount the top brace. The top part of the Makita router cylinder will sit at the top of the brace. Mount the lower brace the same way. Make sure that the recess around the small hole is facing downward. This is where the dust shoe will mount. Finally, insert the trim router with the power cord extending to the right so that the word Makita faces forward. When you have the assembly in place, tighten the screws with a 4mm Allen wrench while holding the nut in place with an 8mm wrench. Try to keep the gaps between the 2 sides even. Be careful not to over-tighten the braces. By making them snug using the short leg of the Allen wrench, you can get them tight enough. The Makita Trim Router has a spindle lock button on the bottom. This makes it possible to use only one wrench, the larger one, for loosening and tightening the chuck. This locking mechanism is cocked at an angle. There's a cutout in the top surface of the dust shoe to accommodate this locking mechanism. The dust shoe has a rim around the bottom to act as a nozzle. The high velocity suction will pick up most of the particles produced from cutting, but some of the larger projectiles may escape the vacuum. You might want to experiment with different kinds of skirts that retain the larger particles, as well as channeling the suction down to the top of the table. To complete your dust collection system, you will need a shop vac. I use the Armor All 2.5 gallon wet dry vacuum model AA255, which only costs around $38 on Amazon. I used a 3D printer to make a number of air duct connectors to hook the hoses up together. I bought an extra meter of hose and made a couple of connectors to extend the length of the hose that came with the shop vac. Then I ran another hose to a panel in a nearby window to eject the filtered air and much of the noise to the outdoors. The DustDragon should also work with the MLCS 9056 Rocky Trim Router, though I haven't tried it. It's the lowest cost trim router I've found. If you are interested in using either of these two routers with a low cost and easy to use dust collection system on your X-Carve, then send me an email to the address on the screen. Make sure I have a kit on the shelf before ordering from www.technoventure.com/DustDragon. Payments are made with PayPal. Please leave your comments and feedback below.